We are back again. First of all, I'd like to just say I'm sorry we haven't been on for a few weeks, but we had a malfunction with our equipment that we use and it had to be sent away over to the eastern side of Australia for repair. So I apologise for that, but to make up for that, I'm going to try and get out some projects much faster than usual, so you'll have a few upcoming. Now today we have a different thing. I don't know if any of you find this, but I have. When I'm sewing, and especially if I'm on a wooden or a tiled floor, and my foot pedal, these little foot pedal things that you plug into your machine, they slide under my feet. So today I'm going to make a little foot pedal control pad, which will stop your foot pedal from sliding away from under you. It's really handy, and especially when you go away on retreat and the floors are tiled or something for ease of cleaning, it's really good. It's invaluable, in fact. So gather your supplies together. I'll show you what you need and we'll get going. So for the project, you will need 2 pieces of non-slip matting. This is just the kind that you put on your shelves inside your cupboards to stop anything slipping to the back or your drawers or something. It's really cheap. You can get it from the supermarkets or whatever. You'll need 2 pieces, 7.5 inches by 9 inches, but you'll also need stabilizer, because this is non-slip. So when you put this on the machine bed, it will stick to it and you won't be able to feed it through. So you need stabilizer underneath. I just use baking paper, and on the top. So line them up. You will have to line them up better than I've got here, and just sandwich those together. I'll do that in a second. Piece on the top, piece on the bottom. You'll also need 2 strips of 2.5 inch binding. So just 2 pieces. You will have some left over, but 1 strip isn't quite enough. So 2 strips, 2.5 inches across the fabric. Of that, you will cut 5 inches off one end. 5 inches by 2.5, and a slightly smaller piece of wadding. So that's what you will need. Obviously need your threads and everything to match up. The first step, because you need to make this little flap here that stops your foot pedal from moving forward. So to do that, you take the little 5 inch by 2.5 inch piece, lay the wadding on the top. You'll fold that in half and you will stitch just on the edge there on both sides, on either end there, and then turn it to the right side. So this is the little top piece. I've turned it to the right side, and you just need to stitch like 1/8 of an inch along the bottom there, because that will just hold it all together. That's all you need. If you've got a bigger foot pedal, you could make it bigger, but I find that that's sufficient for my pedal. The other thing is, you take your, I've already done this, take your 2.5 inch binding strips, join them, fold them in half, wrong side together, press them out, just roll them up ready. That's going to be your binding. The next step is getting these matting pieces quite even, as even as you can get them. Yeah, that's pretty good. Put your baking paper down, or your stabilizer. That's moved a little bit. There you go. Right. Put the remaining piece of stabilizer or baking paper on the top, and what you're going to do is you're going to zigzag round the edge. This will feed through the bed of your machine because it's nice and slippery. You couldn't do it, as I said earlier, if you just had the non-stick matting, obviously. So just a light zigzag stitch to hold those 2 layers together through the paper on your machine. I've zigzagged around in a darker colour so you can actually see it, but I will catch that in my seam allowance when I put my binding on. And then all you have to do is just remove the outer edges. I won't do it. I haven't got my tool here to do it. Just, you could tear it off. But that's just so that you keep this baking paper on both sides while you put the binding on. If not, you'll struggle to get it through, as I said. So that's the next step. You've got it done. All we need to do now is we're going to position, let me get that out of the way. We're going to position this. If I turn it round, it might be easier for you to see. We're going to position this little stop, this little thing that's going to sit up. We're going to position that at the top here, equal lengths from each end. So about roughly 1 3/4 inches, say, from each end there. Just going to put 1/8 of an inch again, or a small zigzag along the top to hold that on, leaving your paper on. I've stitched it on the top, just a little 1/8 of an inch stitch there, along there. Now we're going to put the binding on, leaving our paper on. We're going to put the binding on, but we have, because we're going to sew the binding finally on the top, like so. We're going to have top stitching on the binding. We put the back on first. We're going to sew it onto the back. So turn it over. Now when you just put it on like normal binding, but do leave, start about halfway down one side. Do leave about 4 or 5 inches to join. We're going to sew the binding on like we normally would, all the way around, and join it, and then press it out and turn our work over, and then we'll see the result on the top. I've stitched it all the way around, like you see how you would do normal binding. Excuse me. If you have any problems, I have a handy hint 1 and a handy hint 2, and there'll be a link in the description below. And on the pattern, incidentally, there will be photo stages of everything I've done if you should need the pattern. It's in the Etsy shop. Now, I said to you about the having 2 strips of binding fabric. As you'll see my join there, I probably could have just got it out of 1, but being overcautious as I am, I used 2. So all we're going to do now is turn. I've used coloured thread so you can see. We're going to turn the binding up all the way around, mitering your corners. You'll have plenty of space there to mitre your corners all the way around. You put it closer to you. Stitch it down. You see this at the top? Stitch it there. On the top, stitch your binding. That's why you put it on the back first. And as I said, mitre your corners nicely as you can. And it does help, it stabilizes a little bit underneath, because you've still got a little piece of baking paper under there. You're not going to remove that, just until, you could possibly, but I don't remove it until after I've gone all the way around. When you've stitched that down, this won't sit up on its own. So you can either just, I'll turn it so you can see it, just stitch it a little bit up there, just put a little stitch there to hold it up, just in that spot there, and it will sit up all on its own. So all that's left to do is top stitch this all the way around. Keep it as neat as you can. I know it's a little difficult for some of you. That's why I made the little handy hints about putting on the binding. And then you can remove the paper, both sides, and you're finished. So I've joined just here on my binding, mitered the corners. I have removed the paper. If you pull it off very closely to the stitch line, it comes off really easily. This top piece here, I am going to just hand stitch along here and pull it to make it sit up nice and firmly there. And when you put your foot control on it underneath your table, you will find it stays in place. So this is our finished mat. Got a nice grip on the top and on the bottom. Your foot pedal sits on there firmly, won't budge. If it goes further forward by any means, you've got this buffer here that will stop it. Safe and grips the floor very well. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have enjoyed it, please remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe and press the notification bell, because that way you'll get the projects as soon as they come out. So I hope you'll go along to the Etsy shop. The pattern for this is in the Etsy shop, but you may not need it because I've already given you the sizes and everything, but should you have some trouble, get hold of the pattern because it shows you with photographs every step of the way. So I will Thank you for watching right now, and thank you for being patient when we've been off air. And I hope to see you next time with a brand new project.